All right, guys, welcome to Farmhouse. I'm Kevin Willmann. I'm the chef and owner of our little restaurant here in South City, St. Louis. And we're here to talk a little bit about what we do and what we use our C-Vap for on a weekly, daily basis. So let's get started. All right, so welcome back. It's Monday at Farmhouse, and that means fried chicken. We do one plate of food every day for lunch, Monday through Thursday each week. And one of the biggest assets we have in the kitchen for Blue Plate is the C-Vap. Everyone has, I'm sure, a bunch of different successful ways to do chicken. We've played with cooking the chicken in the C-Vap, frying it and serving it. We've played with holding it already cooked, which is what's working the best for us right now. The fun thing about this unit is that you're constantly changing and adapting and learning, but what's working the best for us right now is to hold the machine at about 107 degrees at a kind of a high browning scale, like 9 or so. And so we're frying our chicken traditionally to about 145 or so, letting it rest for just a second before it goes in. And we're able then to just load this guy up with chicken before. And with 2 cooks now, I can do 115, 130 people for lunch. So that's and that's the only thing we're serving. So that's kind of saying something. Before the C-Vap, we had to come out of this one little Dean 35-pound fryer, and it was just too difficult to keep up with those kind of numbers. So, you know, I think the biggest theme for what the C-Vap's done for us is elevating our sales and profitability. So I know that's the biggest key. That's what everybody's looking for. And you can have a lot of fun in this thing, but we're being pretty straightforward in the beginning with our efficiency and making ourselves more profitable. So, like I said, now we're able to go from only being able to do 75 or 80 people just through the sheer volume of the fryer to now being able to do 130 people. So we've increased our ability to serve by, you know, almost 100%. So that's pretty awesome. So throughout service, Jake in the daytime, who focuses on lunch for me, will have these going like this. And you can see we still have good crisp. You can hear it cracking and crisping. And this is a nice little piece of dark leg, and you can see we still have tons of moisture in there. And this has been in there since, at this point in the day, we're past lunch. It's 2 o'clock, and this has been in there since 10:30. So we saved this one tray and let it go really long just to show you guys that, you know, this is stuff that we pre-cooked over 4 or 5 hours ago, and it's still held at optimum service temperature, great texture, good moisture. One of the first things you start to understand when you start to understand cooking is the gradients, the differences in temperatures and humidity, and obviously this is what this machine's built to do. When you're dry roasting any type of a roast, or porchettas are a popular dish where people are rolling up whole animals. We do a version of a porchetta with pork bellies only, where we actually don't, it's not truly porchetta anymore if there's no whole animal rolled up, but it's our own little version, and we're able to control our loss so well because those gradients are kind of handled. Instead of having a completely dry environment where we're pounding it with more dry heat, we have a really wet environment, and we're able then to keep the loss, the steam and the evaporation and all of that equalization that's trying to happen into the dry air isn't happening in here because the air isn't dry. So, for example, with our porchetta, we're setting the machine really high, and we're cooking it for a long period of time after it's been brined, but we are running it at about 200 with a pretty humid environment. We're setting it at 5, and that's giving us hardly any loss at all. So where we were doing these long rolls, you know, of the whole loin with the belly, we were losing anywhere from 40 to 80%, you know, 40 to 60% in fat loss, rendering, and just evaporation. Well, now all that stays in the machine and stays in the product. And so it's not trying to leave the product into the environment because there's no reason to go there. It's just like, you know, it's classic chemistry where everything wants to be at equilibrium. So if you've got moisture in here, then your product isn't going to give up the moisture into the air. It can't if it's already at that humidity. So what we have and what we end up with, give me another towel. Now this porchetta, which is really just a pork belly roll, not truly a porchetta, but this has had so little loss. You can see in the corner here the little bit of dripping that we've lost from it, but it's so minimal. I'm sure we'd be less than 3 or 4 or 5%. And this is a typical result that we're getting using the C-Vap. All of the good fat is still here. It's been cooked, it's been changed, the protein structure has been broke down, so it's chewable, it's delicious, it's seasoned well, but it's not rendered out and dry. So this product is almost the same size as what we put in here, and I think that's the kind of thing that people will identify with quickly, is when you put a product like this in before this technology, you would have so much loss in, like I said, leaving out, trying to hit equilibrium and leaching out into the environment. So that is just off of the, hotel guys and bigger restaurants, bigger operations than us could benefit so much right off of the bat from so little product loss. And I think that's one of the biggest assets for us here at Farmhouse. So another thing to think about, if you got a hotel and you're going through 80 cases of something a week in the roast, roast beef and all that kind of fun stuff, like we've talked about a little bit with I mean, there are countless different things you can think about that you would be buying in a high volume situation. You start talking about losing only 5% to the environment and you're putting 95% of what you bought onto the plate. I mean, this thing will pay for itself in 5 seconds. Show you guys one more thing. Like I said, it is Monday here at Farmhouse, so we're not in full bore with dinner service. As we prepare throughout the day for dinner service, we start loading this guy up at our service temperature. For service, we run the C-Vap at about 145, and we don't put any browning on it. We want a very moist environment. So that's probably a pretty warm, I don't have the scale in front of me, I'm not doing the math in my head right now, but it's a pretty warm but very humid environment. And that's perfect for holding stuff throughout service. We can cook a pork loin and cut off of that pork loin, say, throughout service, put the product back in the C-Vap, hold it, and not lose the nuances of how we cooked it. It doesn't get dry, as if you were just to hold it and then throw it back in the oven, for example. So now, instead of having to have everything portioned, we're able to cut off of loins or some of that stuff and continue to work through service. But one example of something that we hold through service is kind of a fun little dish that we do. We also do it at Blue Plate at lunch. But we make a bacon wrapped meatloaf, and what you'll see when we actually do this from scratch, we have our roll, we have the bacon rolled up, and we're actually cooking this in the C-Vap, not losing anything, which is nice. So we're not having any loss from the meat itself, from the fat and all of that in the meat. It's not rendering out, it's not going away. The bacon is nice and kind of sucking on to the product, but it's not really getting cooked. It is getting broken down. So we're able to sear this at service and pick it up really quickly. So we will have these bags, which are typical vac bags. Obviously, we cook our meatloaf in the C-Vap. We chill it down to at least 34 degrees or so, and then we portion it and we put it into these bags, and we're able to hold it through service. Now, when we pull this out, it's essentially cooked and done. So to pick up for service now, all we want to do is crisp up the outside bacon, and we're putting this super moist, really nice product out every time, consistently exactly the same. Again, no loss, which is a big deal. We're getting, we were buying twice as much stuff for meatloaf a week before we started using the C-Vap. So this is another example of something we do through service, and it's such a moist environment, I just opened this, but this could be typically at service, it'll look like this. We'll have this in here, even with the bag open, and we'll just grab one as we need one, put it back in. It doesn't matter that the bag's open because that environment is so humid, it's not going to degrade the product. Another example of what we do at Farmhouse on a volume scale that really, I think, makes a difference. One thing we're kind of leaving out today is some of the fun stuff that we're experimenting with proofing charcuterie, proofing breads, some of the more technical stuff that we need to be really careful about. So a lot of that's still in development, and we're making sure we're not going to hurt anybody before we implement that or put it into execution. But these are some things that I know are safe, that I know we are that are really making a difference in our business, and you guys should check out C-Vap. Thanks.